Hey, good people. I'm Paul Heminger. This is my first draft at sharing a little bit about the behind the scenes deeper dive of this cause group around child welfare. If you're watching this, you are either a convener or a hopeful convener in another region. You're someone in our region that's interested in the space, interested in being a participant, a leader, or looking for on-ramps to engage in child welfare. And so again, this is kind of some of the back end stuff that shares the spirit and the heart and the posture of it. So I'm going to start with the why, and then I'm going to move through the rest of the W's. I'm going to start with a story that kind of exposes the power of this kind of group. So at one point, 3.1 million slaves were traded across the seas within the British Empire. Now, most people think and know that William Wilberforce was credited for the abolishment of the slave trade in 1807, but it wasn't him, or it wasn't only him. He may have been a catalytic leader, but it was the Clapham sect, this membership of many social reformers that came together and made that large, systemic, eternal change. Now, the reason why it's called Clapham is because that's kind of like a suburb of downtown London. And they lived together, they walked together, they talked together. They were a dense network of people that had a same mission and also really liked each other. And so that's the power of a dense network. I'm going to be using that language a lot. The author of this book, John Seal, and throughout this book, says the thesis is that the main actor on the stage of lasting cultural change is the dense network. So that's what this is meant to build, a dense network around child welfare. There's two elements of this that I want to share with you really quickly: sociability and solidarity. Sociability is likability, how much you like each other, and solidarity is on mission together. High sociability and low solidarity is like puppies in a box licking each other. They just love each other, just best friends. High solidarity and low sociability is like the mafia, you know, on mission together, everyone's pursuing, putting in a lot of energy, but there's no trust there. So high sociability and high solidarity is what we are aiming for. Um, a quick story: Bonhoeffer was teaching his students, and one day he wanted to teach them a lesson, so they went and walked out to this river, and they sat down and they watched for an hour as the Nazis trained, and I don't think he said anything. And after that hour, um, he said, they were walking back, and he said, we have to be 10 times better than that. That level of attunement and synchronicity and all those things for their shared evil mission. Ours is kingdom come. So how do we go from low density to high density? Well, it's not a straight line. It's not even a curved line. It's pretty meandering. Often a weak dense network starts like this: people not knowing each other, not filled up all over the place, have acquaintanceships, dotted lines to each other. And a typical end of gathering ends like this. That's not what we want. We don't want dotted lines between each other. We want to start here, and then we want to have closer, thicker lines. Notice that the jagged line, that resembles conflict. It's both the catalytic leader and the other people that address um, natural tension points and actual tension points, so that you can continue to be the unity of John 17 that we're called to be as the body. And then this is the goal. And the black dot is God at the center, facilitating and mediating kind of the group, all kind of in service to that larger, because ultimately no leader is the king. We have a king and we serve that king together. So, and it looks like this. So imagine if you and I were traveling together for 2 years. And then imagine that you and I were sent out two by two with no money, with no extra pair of sandals, no staff, no food. Our level of trust in each other would drastically grow as we journey together two by two and then back with the 12. That is the model that we are basing all of this density work off of together. So some of the back-end mechanics, I have another cause group video that is about 43 minutes long that goes a lot deeper into cause groups as an idea and as a whole. So I go into more detail in that video. I'll link to it in the description below. But I'm just sharing that I've read these books and I use these elements in every single gathering. So The Art of Gathering is amazing. Liberating Structures is an incredible tool. And on the leadership side, John Seal, the author of Network Power, says Swing is the best book. That's kind of the manual for being that kind of leader that can bring this kind of child welfare cause group together. And what are we aiming for? What does high sociability and high solidarity mean? Well, the goal that we're aiming for in the solidarity way is more than enough. And that means before, during, and beyond foster care. They break more than enough down into these four goals that you can read and maybe fill out a survey and share where you're at with these. We add a fifth one within our cause group about equipping everyone. So we have equippers or trainers that are all about helping all these people thrive. And I wanted to share a little backstory about where all this came from. So in 2004, the Christian Alliance for Orphans started. And in 2009, I'm pretty sure if I'm getting this right, that Jed kind of took the presidency role. And what I so love and appreciate about Jed is that his fixation on long-term, light-yoked sustainability, that we can embody the light yoke that Jesus has on us. So I love his podcast, Justice in the Inner Life. I mentioned this to multiple people to listen to as much as possible. If you were only going to listen to one, I would listen to the one with Jim Martin. He's the VP of Spiritual Formation at International Justice Mission. They are this huge organization that combats human trafficking around the world. But they make a very clear distinction that they are not a human trafficking organization. They are a community of Christian formation that fights human trafficking. That's a huge shift in thinking. And so that's what this is. This community, this cause group around child welfare is all about, collective Christian formation from glory to glory as individuals, as and as a unit of captains and co-captains, seeing each other as co-captains, not as enemies. Um, Jed has this thing called the CAFO's Strategic Plan for Thriving Souls. I'll link to this too. If you go to cafo.org/souls, this is what he uses to help his whole team live in a thriving soul space. So he says no factor is more critical to the success of an organization than the vitality of the people within it. All else flows from it. Creativity, attentiveness, hope, love, endurance, and 100 other traits essential to success rise naturally from a thriving soul. In this and only in this can we embody the vision we seek to affect in the world. That's what this space is. It's to help each other be thriving souls, to have more capacity, because we can't give what we don't have. And what we want to have to be able to give is rested belovedness on behalf of all of the workers. And that takes a learned trait for driven and motivated people at whatever layer and level that you work in. A little bit of backstory. Jason Weber came on as the domestic focus within child welfare, and he made this awesome foster movement podcast. And at the end of each podcast, I would listen to them like almost as soon as they came out. And he would say, "We're so thankful for the work that you do where you do it. We are here to help you until there's more than enough." And every time he said that, I would just start crying. And I was like, what is it about that? And then only later did I find out that now it's kind of this new mantle that he has helped to develop and now lead called the More Than Enough Initiative. Now they have a staff of like 5 to 7 or 8 people that's all about proliferating these convening spaces and sets of tools. And so, Jason and I are in pretty constant communication about helping this to become successful for you and for our region. And ultimately, for who? We're here for what reason? So I like to picture it and think about it this way. If there are two cliffs spiritually within our region, then on one side is stats of suffering and stories of healing. Now, if you go through these stats, these are real just in Montgomery County of Dayton. They have about 13,000 phone calls a day or a year, which is about 35 a day of suspected abuse and neglect of children. They have 1,000 open cases. 700 kids don't live in their homes. They're either foster kinship or in group homes. 70 children are adoptable right now. Those are the modern day orphans. 65 kids age out every year. Those are kites without a string often. But then there's also all these stories of healing. These 220 caseworkers at Montgomery County, plus 500, plus 700,000 people that are actively engaging in healing, and all of the foster parents who are walking into this for the right reason, and group home directors, etc., that are all about the healing of those stories and those statistics. And on the other side, we have about 1,200 to 1,500 fellowships or local churches within our region. And if the statistics holds true for so many reasonable barriers, then 192,000 inactive followers of Christ. So many people have found their way over to this cliff. What we are excited about building in a city transformation way as it filters down to child welfare cause group is to build a super highway that unleashes latent love from one side to the other. And I describe latent love as the time, the talent, and the treasure that is being waiting to be unleashed to deeply care for and help heal and provide love and security and safety to those hurting families and hurting kids. And this is a little bit about what the Child Welfare Cause Group looks like. Here are some of the different logos and some of the needs that they have, some of the on-ramps or ways as a unit. We would love to say, hey, if you're interested in unleashing your latent love in one of these ways, here's some awesome people that you could connect with. Now, I want to let you know that I'm not doing this alone. I mentioned that I'm doing it with Jason Weber, but Jason is also convening conveners. So I'm doing this alongside a couple different people around the country and probably many more to try to help this be a really vibrant and successful moving forward together, co-captains across the nation. This is kind of some foundational or formational text. It's called Rooting for Rivals, and it's case studies of high collaboration and generosity within the Christian landscape, where most people would think of them as rivals, but they've come together to see kingdom. So you can see there's kingdom, clan, scarcity, abundance. Without self-assessing, we might default to scarcity, clan, or even if we desire to have our spirit and our posture living kingdom abundance, we can drift kind of back into scarcity, clan when we get anxious or worried or whatever. The whole deep work of kingdom abundance work is to live in a trusting and beloved relationship with God, to trust God with the outcomes and with our work and with all of that, so that we can come together to see each other, not as rivals, but as co-lieutenants, co-captains, co-generals, co-foot soldiers. We have an enemy, and our enemy is in each other. The world will know that I have come, says Jesus, when they love each other. This is a petri dish pursuit of John 17, is to root for our rivals within this space to come together for those greater goals of kingdom abundance. And so it's helping each other live in that free kingdom abundance space. There's a podcast that Jason does with the authors that I'll also link to. It's like 30 minutes long. It's a great, great, great listen. Ultimately, to live in a kingdom abundance space, we have to talk about that currency of the line that exists between nodes, between dots, and that has everything to do with trust. So if we're truly going to collaborate and coordinate, then we need to do that with relationship, and relationship is built on trust, and trust is built on time. Really well facilitated time, might I add. And trust is a hard thing, depending on our family of origin, how we've been burned before, unhealed wounds. We may not trust God with what we are stewarding, or each other, or whatever. Trust is a very, very tricky thing. So Jason and his team has done well to kind of give us a document and some 5 guidelines of how we build trust together. And this document is not a demand like this is how you have to. It's always a love offering. It's saying to the other person this is how I'm going to show up in this space. I'm going to do that. The expectation of you kind of giving that trust is all on you. and wherever you are in the process. One other resource that I found to be extremely helpful in the trust space is this. It's called the Trust Edge Institute, and David and his wife have led this research team for 25 years, singularly focused on trust and the 8 or so ingredients that kind of make up what trust is. It's really powerful and fascinating. It's been really helpful to me to see how I'm accidentally signaling maybe mistrust or distrust in one of those 8 ways that I wouldn't have known before. So I think that that's going to be a part of the vernacular and vocabulary so that we can, miscommunication and miscues can be resolved to rebuild trust when it's broken, because it will be. It's just the nature of relationships. One other element about this space is that you can build fences to keep in giraffes and elephants and cows and stuff to a space. You can fence it. Or what you can do is create a really deep well in a watering hole, and they're drawn into closer proximity. So there's 2 different ways of thinking about it. One way is called bounded set. And for many of us, we're very culturally used to what bounded set means. You're in or you're out, based on kind of the culture and the rules. If you think and act and feel and behave and whatever, you're in. If you drift, you might be out, and it's an anxious system, and you never truly understand where you fit. What the other system is called centered set, which means that this space, this child welfare cause group, no matter where you come from or who you are, the design of it is to be a Jesus-centered or a Christ-centered space, no matter what background you come from at all. Yeah, I didn't start even considering following Jesus until I was about 23 or 24. So, and it's taken me a long time of building trust with God to even, say that I'm fully convinced of the story. And so we make space for people to meander and to be a part of, and to exist within this group wherever they come from. So we're centered on Christ, and we're going to walk that out. But just so you know, that's the posture that we're taking when we gather, folks. Christ and Jesus will always be a part of the conversation. One last analogy is about a puzzle. So Jason gives this example about in any region. So if we're focused on Greater Dayton, do we see the image on the box top of a puzzle of what the kingdom of heaven looks like in child welfare? Like, what will more than enough look like and feel like? And so the second question we ask ourselves is, do you have all the pieces? And then part of knowing if you have all the pieces is what existing pieces do you have? And then what missing pieces do you have, or pieces that haven't been uncovered? And then third is, how do you put those pieces together in that rooting for rival space? So I can share with you a document. In the yellow are existing puzzle pieces that we have. In the red are non-existing puzzle pieces. So it's beautiful things happening around the country that, given the right leader and the right fuel, those things can come about in our space. I have these broken up experientially into 2 YouTube playlists that I will also link to. So you can see what we have, and then things that exist other places in the country that we don't yet have, but there's opportunities to have. I made a less than 1 minute video to introduce myself as a current staff of Coalition of Care. And then I put the Coalition of Care related videos underneath it. We're going to go through a process of inviting other people with other leaders within this cause group in Greater Dayton to do the same thing, so that you can relate to them, see their face, get their vibe, and have an opportunity to connect with them individually, however they share what that on-ramp is. Now here we went through the why, the who, I don't know, but here's the what, the when, and the where. So the what does this actually look like? It is a monthly group gathering for about 90 minutes, and we meet as a group, but we very much encourage the individual meetings together. So we use that time to thicken lines and to get to and to see each other but we very much encourage the thickening of lines individually between gatherings. When is it? It's typically one of the last Thursdays of the month for about 90 minutes, usually sometime between 1 and 3. We're looking at 1:30 to 3 or 2 to 3:30 or things like that. And then where? It's on rotation between in person and virtual. So last month we met in person. This next month we'll meet virtually, so on and so forth. And we'll potentially pick different places. Right now we've been meeting at Montgomery County Children's Services to embody kind of the space and the reason why we're meeting. So to pull all of this off, we have to believe that it's possible. And these are the 3 steps. So do you believe that it's possible, that we can reach more than enough? I believe, I'm a possibilist. I believe that we can if we come together in that John 17 kind of way. Are you doing your part? What is your part? Does it need to be revealed? How can we connect to see what your part is? And if you're already doing your part and you're completely exhausted and you're weary, then let's try to help all of the rest of us do our part together to find more people to help you do that sustainably so that you can have a thriving soul. And then last, we have to do it together. We can't do it as individual activities and movements. It's within kind of this collective is when we'll make, I believe, the most headway. And I believe that we can reach more than enough. I don't know what year vision it is, but I believe in my gut and in my spirit that this is the way. So thank you so much for watching. Feel free to get in contact with me over email, throw that into, and reach out for any questions, comments, concerns. You know, you get the gig. Thank you, and hope to talk to you soon. Take care. Bye.